cheap LS swap, budget LS swap. I'm sure you've seen the videos, read the magazine articles, but have you ever actually priced out how much this stuff costs? You're looking at thousands and thousands of dollars. And I don't know about you, but as soon as you get into the $1,000 range, the whole concept of budget kind of goes away. It only costs you $500 here, $1,000 there, $10,000 here. Next thing you know, your super happy, fantastic LS swap is costing more than the vehicle itself is worth. So what do you do about it? Well, today we're going to show you how to do an L6 swap, which is very similar to an LS swap, except there's 2 less cylinders, several hundred less horsepower, but there is a benefit to it, that it is actually in fact a budget swap. Most expensive part of this swap is going to be the oil and the coolant, and not to mention the gas, which we might just siphon out of our neighbor's truck, but don't tell anyone. Okay, the time has come to pull out this wheezy old boat anchor and replace it with another wheezy old boat anchor. Are you all excited as I am? So my strategy here is to pull the engine with the transmission attached, which I'm not sure if that's going to work or not. I guess we'll give it a fighting try here. I don't know if any of you have ever pulled a straight 6 with a T5 on it out of one of these trucks. Let me know if it's going to work or not. I would really like to avoid taking the transmission off. I did finally buy myself one of these. These things are pretty slick for removing engines and things, I've found. And I finally bought one for myself, so we'll do an unboxing here. Very exciting. Never thought I'd say this, but I can't wait to start fixing the rust on this cab. I just do not enjoy doing this type of work at all. Well, this has been a comedy of errors here. but a few important lessons were learned, maybe. Our first problem was our geometry on our chain hookup here was completely wrong, so the engine was all twisted sideways, and instead of just stopping to correct it, we just went for it as you would. So that didn't help. The next issue is that the transmission has to come off. I had to do a little customizing there, and even then it just barely came out. If the front sheet metal was on, there's no way, I don't think, of getting the two out together. So now we know transmission has to go on separately. Also, I know some of you are probably going to say that I should have drained the transmission before removing it, but to me there's really no right or wrong way to do things as long as you end up at the same result. So the transmission is drained, whether it ended up in the drain pan or on the floor is really apples to oranges. Our next step here is to, I guess, clean up this mess. Then we have to shuffle this truck over here and then bring in another truck here, and somehow, oh yeah, that's the other thing is I need a bigger garage because this garage is not big enough for doing stupid stuff like this. Well, I've finally become the guy who has trees growing through his vehicle. Don't worry though, I'm gonna fix it up someday. Not the truck, the trees, of course. This place is just an entire maze of idiot quests. Sad thing is, even on 4-year-old gas, this thing still runs smoother than this piece of garbage does, but show you why it's getting pulled here. I don't know if you can hear it when it gets to around 2,000 RPM. I'll put you outside, maybe you can hear it better. Well, drive shaft is out, and this all just looks like it's gonna be a nightmare. And here's our culprit here, this stupid Hurst shifter conversion thing, and this is just completely sacked out, so I'm not gonna miss this too much. Unfortunately, it looks like I have to cut a new hole in the floor for the shifter. And as I recall from when I changed the throwout bearing years ago, this transmission is quite hefty. I do actually almost feel bad about yanking this engine out. It's been unbelievably reliable despite being complete garbage. The engine was in the truck when I got it, and it was worn out then, and it hasn't gotten any better. I was originally kind of thinking about having it rebuilt, but the problem with that is trying to find somebody that you can actually trust to rebuild it. I think the days of paying for a professional job and getting a professional job are kind of gone away. Now you pay for a professional job, but you don't get it, and there doesn't seem to be any accountability anymore. It's just you get what you get, and you got to be happy with that. So my fear is taking it to someone and having them rebuild it, and then ending up with something that's worse off than what I have, and being in the hole for a whole pile of money. I don't know what it costs to rebuild an engine these days, but I don't imagine it's cheap. So we're stuck with either buying all the equipment to rebuild engines and then learning how to rebuild an engine, which I don't have time or money for, or just swapping in a slightly 1% better engine and limping it around until I guess it goes bad, and just perpetually swapping out garbage engines into this thing until I come up with something, a better plan. Just once I'd like to do something mechanical without just making a giant, horrific mess everywhere. Is that even possible? Well, my dad stopped by and we got the new good engine swapped into the GMC here. And we got this engine swapped into this pile here. And I didn't get any footage of that because I think if somebody goes out of their way to show up and do a job that isn't particularly pleasant, you don't make it worse by stuffing a camera in their face. Don't worry though, thanks to the magic of editing and our special effects department, we're going to be able to recreate this entire engine swap scenario for you in realistic detail. Keep getting emails from people offering to professionally edit my videos and make me professional looking thumbnails, but I don't know what they're watching, but I don't see how any of this could get any more professional than it already is. You know, sure Hollywood's going to be calling here any week, and I'll be waiting. So I guess we did learn a few valuable lessons. First of all, the hood had to come off, and we had to obviously install a transmission after it was in. That's okay. Everything's going surprisingly well, other than the fact that it is taking quite a while. I don't know how all those crazy engine swapper guys can like do some insane engine swap in like a day or two, and this is like as simple as it gets, and this is still, oh man, this is a lot of work. So I guess my hat's off to the people that can do this kind of thing, but I don't want any part of it other than what's absolutely necessary. So yeah, hood had to come off, and then we abandoned our this thing would be really handy, but I think I'd have to take the head bolts off for it to actually equally lift. Otherwise it just wasn't doing it, and I didn't want to take the head bolts off because then I have to take the valve cover off. And I think I changed this valve cover gasket when I was like 20 or something, and I think I used about 8 tubes of silicone on it after I changed the gasket. So I'm not digging into that. You can see my nice seam seal job when I changed the water pump. Beautifully done. So whoever has to remove that is going to have a fun time. But anyways, that was our thing there. We ended up just using conventional chain to lift it out. In case it's not already obvious, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. See, this one is got some slop to it there. This is the distributor that came out of the engine that was originally in this truck. So we're gonna plop it in the junk engine. Still works, but this one had a new distributor, so we'll use it in our good engine, I guess. So now we need to get this 2-piece drive shaft into this truck somehow, which means I need to salvage this bracket off of the cross member. So we gotta do a whole pile of grinding and stuff, and probably the proper way to do this would be actually measure stuff and maybe put this drive shaft, 1-piece drive shaft in out of the GMC into this truck, and then we'll know everything works before we go to all the work of cutting out this. But let's just not do any of that, and we'll go straight to cutting this out and spending a whole pile of time, and then we'll find out later on that none of this is going to work at all, and I have to spend like $2,000 on one of them fancy drive shafts that are rated for like 8 million horsepower. That's the way it's done around here. Here's our bracket that we need. So I just knocked out the rivets here and then bolted it on with grade 8 bolts with lock nuts on the back. So I think that should work. The drive shaft almost worked. It at least gave us false hope, which I think sometimes false hope is better than no hope in situations like this. I think we can make it work though. The problem here is that this center bearing thingy is rubbing right here, just barely, and it was really close on the Chevy, but I don't know what this is going to do under load. So what I'm going to try to do is just take a grinder and notch this so that this bolt can go ahead a little bit further, and then hopefully that'll give us the extra clearance we need. Okay, so I just barely clearanced that, and it now doesn't rub anymore. Actually, I think it was pretty close on the Chevy too, because you can see this old wear mark right here. If this thing would focus, this isn't like working in a dungeon here. Anyways, if there's a horrific grinding noise from the Driveline, we'll probably know the first place to look at least. But if you're an engineer or have a brain or something that hasn't been exposed to body shop chemicals for the last 12 years, leave a comment and let me know, I guess. This thing just inspires a lot of confidence. What's happened here is that things haven't exactly been going very well today. I tried siphoning out all the old gas, and just future reference, this Princess Auto siphon pump is not even worth the money at all. I think it kind of worked for about 2 seconds and then conked out, and it's now dead. So that was money well wasted. So we wanted to change the fuel filter though, so there's a fuel filter right off the tank. So I pulled that off and then proceeded to drain the gas tank that way, and we spilled gas. This whole floor from here all the way up, all the way to here, was completely soaked with gas for the better part of the day. And so we had the doors open and we let that air out. So that was fun. Got that changed and just buttoned up the ignition system here, and I think we're all ready. I changed the oil and topped up the coolant. So basically I think everything is done. We're just ready to hit the key here and see what happens, and then we can start, I guess, doing our fine adjustments. I didn't change the plugs or anything. It's all just one big pile of garbage. Cheap garbage, I might add. Well, it's the next day here, and there's kind of good news and bad news. You can see we've got our various diagnostic things around here, and the good news is that this engine runs smoother than it ever has when it was in this other truck, so that's a promising sign. The bad news is there are several problems, and the way that I'm going to tackle this is I'm going to solve one problem at a time now that it's running, because I know in my past experiences, if I fix everything at once and then it doesn't run anymore, then I won't know which one of my fixes made it worse. So we'll start with the first problem here, which is the points. As I'm sure you saw when I was trying to get this running, it would not run. There was a couple times when it kind of almost went and then it just wouldn't do anything at all. That was because I kept losing spark, because the points are really bad, and that's something I noticed when the distributor was in this truck, or this engine that used to be in this truck. Lots of confusing part swapping going around. I know, hard to follow, but I did observe that they were bad. They looked really bad, but the truck was still running on them, so I chose to ignore it. I checked the gap. The gap was fine, but as soon as I went to start this engine, no spark. And then I'd go back and I'd clean them and then get spark like for a second, and it would almost fire, and then just nothing. Finally clean them second or third time, and then it finally went off. But just from looking at them, they're just completely shagged out. And the old distributor that was in this engine appears to have new points. So we're going to take the points out of this distributor, which is now in this engine, and put them in here because they look considerably better condition, and that'll eliminate that problem. I also haven't been able to get this dwell meter to work, which we're not really blaming the, well, I don't know to blame the points or to blame the this thing. One or the other, I guess, has failed, but either way, points are bad. Let's change those. This is what we just took out, and this is what we're putting in out of the other truck. And yes, appearances can be deceiving, but this seems to be a little more robust. This is, I'm actually surprised these lasted as long as they did. There's a little plastic thingy that's supposed to just kind of hold the wires on, and the wires were kind of loose as well. And of course the plastic thingy just dropped into the abyss. But I guess these could be cleaned some more, but like they're not looking too great. So we're just gonna see if this helps at all. Turns out this actually does work, and those points were really bad. We're now getting dwell is at 31. It's supposed to be between 31 to 34, so I think that's close enough for now. Got the timing. It was at 6 degrees, but after I replaced the points, it's now at 8 degrees. But we're going to move on to our next problem before we worry about that too much, which is this thing here. This is running obnoxiously rich. Like, it's just dumping raw gas right out the exhaust. And I can't lean it out anymore without it starting to run rough. So obviously something is wrong here, and I kept saying to myself, well, this thing's new, but new was over 15 years ago now, and this truck hasn't been driven regularly since 2015, and it hasn't been driven at all since February of 2020. So I think we have some issues here with this unit. There's also another problem. This you won't be able to see it now, but the actual lever for the throttle is broken or loose, and it's not allowing it to go to full throttle. It's only about 3/4 throttle, which is something that I noticed the last time I drove it in February of 2020, is that on the highway it was like the foot was right to the floor, and there's still, not that this thing is not that it's a powerhouse, but there's it felt like it wasn't going to full throttle. So obviously that's been busted off for a while, so our new carburetor is actually in need of some servicing, I guess. We got this off, and trying to do this one-handed here. This isn't gonna work. You see our issue there with the throttle linkage, which I guess it looks like you could just hammer this down a little bit more and it should tighten it up. My original plan here was just to actually swap it out with this brand new carb that I got for free years ago. Freebie! Zip! Zero! Nada! And just convert this one over to a manual choke. But having looked at it, even though they're the same carburetor, throttle linkage is different, the top is completely different. Nothing is really the same except for the actual bowl, or whatever you want to call it here. So that's not going to help us at all. We're left with no choice but to tear into this, find out what the problem is, clean it out, and go from there. I'm actually not really seeing anything like ruined in here. I was expecting a lot worse. Just gonna pause it here and leave a comment if you can spot the glaringly obvious problem here that I'm actually pointing at. This is why you stay in school and don't do autobody, because it fries your brain. I did tighten up this this thing here. I just peened it, or whatever you want to call it, and so that's tightened up. I think all we can do is just give it a quick clean here and maybe check our float level, and other than that I don't really know what else to do. Well, I don't know if that's our main problem, but this is definitely a pretty significant problem. Sure, most of you probably spotted this in the last clip, and I don't know, I was like, this looks weird, but just didn't even. Anyways, that is not good. What's happened here is a lot of time has been wasted. I ended up scavenging our new free carburetor for parts. I don't have a carb kit here, so I used the accelerator pump from this, and then I also stole the bowl or whatever and used that, because I figured all that rubber from the accelerator pump is all probably navigated its way through the various orifices of this, and I didn't want to feel like dealing with that, so I just swapped it out. Then I cleaned out the top, and everything seems to be clear there. Looked at everything, I guess, and then put it back together. So we'll see if that makes any difference. It can't make it any worse. We got everything put back together here. We also fixed our choke here. The fast idle on this thing never worked. You always had to kind of pump it a couple times to get it going, and then it would just kind of sit there and gurgle away with the choke out until it warmed up. But this linkage here was pushed up against the spring. It was bent over this way, so we rebent it back, and now we're actually on the idle cam thingy here, so it'll actually that'll actually work now, and that's never worked, so that might help some, at least with starting anyways. What else happened here? Float, I think level is okay. The drop is slightly off, or one or the other is off. but that's just the way it was before, so I'm going to leave it that way for now. If it's still running rich, then that gives us something else to do, but we don't have to pull the whole carb off. We just have to pull the top off and we can adjust that. So just bit by bit here, we're kind of sorting out the problems. I guess we're gonna try firing it up here again and see if that fixed anything at all. Probably not. So I'm just in the process of editing this video right now, and I realize now on camera that the engine that we just put in this truck, on camera it doesn't sound or run any better than the engine that we took out. Everything we've been doing to it seems like a colossal waste of time. And I mean, the title of this video is going to be something like the dumbest engine swap on YouTube, so you know, it's not like this is a really good plan here. But you'll just have to take my word that this thing does run way better. The engine we took out is junk. Let's just say that, save ourselves a bunch of words. It is junk. And this engine is like 2% better. Thing is, this is the best I can afford right now. Like, I can't just go spend, you know, a lot of money on any of this stuff, or really any money at all. So the option is I leave this truck sitting and rotting in my backyard as an undrivable thing, or I put this engine in and I can limp it along with this engine for possibly another year or two, maybe. I only put like 2,000 miles a year on my daily driver, so you know, if I'm only putting 1,000 miles a year on this, I would hope it should last a couple years maybe. Obviously, you put this stuff on the internet, everybody's going to have an opinion of how they do it better or whatever, and that's fine. If one of you wants to, you know, send me $5,000 for a new engine, or just send me a new engine, you know, I'll take it. But if you're not willing to do that, then I don't, you know, your opinion probably will just be ignored. At the end of the day, I'm going to get a truck out of it that I can use again. It's cheaper than buying a different truck and then trying to fix it and find out what's wrong with it. I already know what's wrong with this truck. The other thing is we're putting the rebuilt T5 in it that was in the other truck. So that's going to be, I think, a big upgrade. It will help keep the RPMs down on the highway, because before, even doing 50 in this thing, it was just absolutely screaming. So if I can get 55 out of it and keep the RPMs down, I think we can limp this engine along for a while. Obviously, like I said, it's clattery, it's clanky, it's not great, but it is better than what we took out. You'll just have to take my word for it. I will say, as I took this truck apart, I really didn't find anything catastrophic, or really anything at all. You know, normally you because the previous owner did a whole pile of mechanical work on this. He rebuilt the transmission and rear end and did the brakes and stuff. So all that was all new, and normally when you take something apart or work on something that somebody else has worked on, you're always going to find like loose bolts or problems here and there. And as I disassembled this, I didn't find a single thing that was wrong. I didn't find a single loose bolt or anything on it. So I mean, it kind of gives me confidence that the transmission is really good in it, and everything else that was done to it was sound. So that definitely helps the confidence level, I guess, in some of this project anyways. I did drive this truck pretty well every day for like 2 months after I bought it, and you know, there's no issues. It never left me stranded. It never conked out or anything like that. It started every time. So that also kind of gives me some more confidence that it's going to kind of at least hold together for a little bit. Well, if you were one of the people screaming at the computer, calling me an idiot and saying that this wasn't going to work, you were absolutely right. We didn't even make it around the block. Not even halfway around the block, not even a quarter of the way around the block, and it's already grinding away. See the shavings here? This is where like the brain being exposed to body shop chemicals comes in, I guess. There's just didn't stand a chance. Obviously, the trailing arm truck, it has less fore and aft than a leaf spring truck. So even though this was really close on the other truck, the lack of movement fore and aft is, you know, it was all engineered in a way where it would work, whereas this is not engineered to work in this way. And now that we failed, now we do our research and we find out that there's been a couple other people doing this and failing as well. This is not designed to work with a leaf spring truck. The trucks with leaf springs that did have a two-piece drive shaft, they had a fixed something more substantial than this cheesy thing here, and they also had a slip yoke here to allow for it to the movement, you know. So this was just I'm gonna try one more like kind of last ditch desperate attempt here to make this work, but we've already kind of resigned ourselves to the fact that we're going to be having a drive shaft built, which I don't even want to know what one of those costs these days, but I know that it's not going to be cheap. Fail. Not pleased with myself here. Not a proud moment. Well, you can see the decision has been made here. I can make this work. I can change the bracket. I can modify it so it changes the angle and keeps it, you know, away from here. But the reality is that it's still going to be banging up against this, and who knows, maybe for regular driving it would be fine, but this is it's a working truck. It's been loaded down to the bump stops on more than one occasion, and it's probably going to happen again. So I really don't want this grinding away at this cheesy thing here, which is pretty flimsy. It's not very thick metal at all. It's just kind of welded on here or something. So do I really want to mess around with this? If this fails and the drive shaft fails, it's going to literally destroy the entire bottom of the truck. It's going to take out the exhaust, the floor, e-brake cables, brake lines, fuel lines. Just, it's going to make a mess of things. So yes, we could make it work and we could parade it around for this video. It'd still be something I have to fix, and so I might as well just fix it now and leave the video off on a bad note, I guess. But I'd rather do that than leave it off on a really bad note with on the side of the road with a broken drive shaft. Well, this is not the way that I wanted to end this one. We were supposed to end this with a happy test drive and driving off into the sunset or whatever. That's obviously not the case here. We're simply out of time. This thing was supposed to be a simple swap, and it's, as expected, fought me every step of the way. And it's no longer a $0 engine swap. I don't know what the drive shaft is going to cost me. I have to go in first thing tomorrow morning and get that taken care of, and it's probably going to be a week to get that built. So there has been some victories. This thing is running better than it has in a long time. Still not 100%, but the plan was to drive to the gas station and get put some fresh gas in it and run some fresh gas through it. Right now we're running a mix of really old gas, like 4-year-old gas, plus whatever I stole. So it's not an ideal combination. So, but we didn't even make it past my house before we just said, nope, this is not, I thought, well, maybe it'll just self-clearance itself, but it's, the grinding noise was not good. This is going to be a 2-part series, obviously. Next time, we're going to get this thing buttoned up, get it back on the road some which way, and we'll get it cleaned up. We're going to see if we can clean up the exterior here, make it look a little less scummy, a little more presentable. We also got some interior upgrades that we're going to do, or downgrades depending on how you look at it. And so, how does this all fit into this truck? As I've said before, this truck is going to be for sale when I'm done doing the rust repair on it. And I didn't want to just sell it without an engine. Trying to sell a vehicle that doesn't run and drive is just about impossible. We're gonna just get this engine kind of mobile, I guess, enough so that it moves the thing around. I think it's still, it should still be rebuildable. I don't even think it's ever been rebuilt. I think it's still standard bore and whatever. It hasn't thrown a rod out the side of it or anything, so it is still savable. The reality is most people are going to be just doing a V8 swap of some kind into one of these trucks. But the fact that it can drive itself around, still drive itself on a trailer, just makes life so much easier, and it makes the truck a lot more feasible to sell. Obviously, I'm not selling it as a truck with a good engine, but it will be a running and driving truck. Not as valuable as, a good running and driving truck, but like I said, this engine is probably only 2% better than this one. So, not really a huge upgrade or downgrade either way. The Twisted Kyle economics thing here, our way of plotting this out was, to buy this truck, swap the engine and transmission in to this one, because I wanted a T5 in this for a long time, and this one had a rebuilt T5. So this was the plan, and then use this truck to do all the rust repair so that I'd actually have something worth selling when I'm done. And to top it all off, you guys get a bunch of videos out of it of doing rust repair. So it's kind of a win-win, I guess, for everyone. And somebody will end up with a truck with a solid cab, solid front sheet metal and all that they can do their weird engine swap or rebuild this engine or whatever they want to do. I'm hoping this will all just kind of break even on this. I don't think this is a big, this is not going to be a big money maker. It's obviously not a very popular project on YouTube, but I think we can still break even on it, and I get a truck that I can actually use again. Well, maybe we won't be breaking even anymore. Now we got to spend who knows how much on a drive shaft, but anyways, hopefully that kind of explains some of our reasoning here and what's going on. The patrons have kind of known what we've been doing here for a while now since I bought this truck, but that's now you guys know what's happening. I do apologize for all this talking here. I'm just trying to explain what's going on here, because there's been some questions and there's going to be some questions of why I'm doing all this, and I hope it will work out in the end. I hope this engine will hold together, and I hope this truck will drive and all that, but I guess we'll stay tuned for the next episode to see what happens, I guess. Sorry for leaving you on a cliffhanger, but I just want to say thanks so much to all of you for watching these videos. It does mean a lot to me, and thank you to everyone who's sent in donations, whether it's through super chats or super thanks or PayPal or the folks on Patreon. Without you folks, I wouldn't be able to make these videos at all. So thanks again for sticking it out here, and we'll see you on the next one, and hopefully this will be a roadworthy truck again.